This video is about graphing applications. We're going to see word problems which have to do with graphing. Here's our first one. We have a telephone plan. We're paying a monthly amount of $40 and then 5 cents for every text. Now the first question asks us for an equation for the cost. So we're going to write this down as our cost equals, well, originally we have to pay $40 no matter what, but then we need the 5 cents per text, so I'm going to say it's $40 plus 0.05. That's 5 cents for every text, and they said to use T for the text, so there it is. $40 plus 5 cents per text. You can think about this as y equals mx plus b, and you can see that our slope is 5 cents, or 0.05. In other words, the cost increases 5 cents for every additional text, and that's why our slope is 0.05. With the same situation, we could have another question. Here's part B. They ask us to graph the cost equation, and here is our cost equation, which we figured out last time. And there's really quite a few ways to think about graphing it. Although this graph says XY, this is really going to be C on our vertical axis, and on our horizontal axis, which I think I might want to make a little bit longer, this is going to be T for the number of texts. This is our independent variable as text, and the dependent variable as cost. Now one thing right away, I can see that if my text is equal to 0, my cost is going to be 40. You can see that by actually putting in 0 for T, and you would get out 40 for the cost, or in other words, that's our what would normally be our y-intercept. In this case, this is our cost intercept. So this is where our graph is going to start. Now I could figure out another case. For example, we do want to go up to 600 texts. So I need to put 600 here. And I could calculate for 600 texts what my cost will be. That's 0.05 times 600. And if you work that out, you're going to get 70. So this means that when I have 600 texts, my cost is 70. That's really the point 670. Let's put in 40, 50, 60, 70. Here we go. When we're at 600 texts, we're paying $70, so that looks like that's about right there. Obviously, my scale for texts and cost are not the same scale at all. I'm going to put in a few more marks here. Why don't we call these 200 and 400. This is certainly not exact, but in fact I might change that one a little bit. That looks a little better. Now I could find another point the same way I did this one, or I could think about my slope. And as we mentioned, the slope is 0.05. That's 0.05, that's 5 cents per one text. And if I multiply top and bottom by 100, I would get 5 per 100. So for every 100 texts, my cost is going to be another $5. So if I start at $40 for 0 texts, for 100 texts I would go up $5, and for 200 texts I would be going up $10. So I know that 250 is another point, and 460 is another point. And that gives me plenty to draw my graph now. Here I'm just drawing in my graph for cost of this telephone plan. Here's my cost according to the number of texts. Down here, these are my texts again, and here's my cost. Here, this is my cost in dollars. I might want to add that in. And we have $40 if there's no text, and you can see at 600 texts the cost would be $70. That's our graph. Now again, with this situation, there's another question that might be asked. Find the total monthly cost if there are 300 texts. So in other words, they're telling us that T equals 320, and we're being asked what is the cost. We're just going to write down our equation, plugging in the 320 in place of the T. We're going to solve that, and as we solve this, this is 40 plus 16, I get C equals 56. Now this is a word problem, so I want to write my answer in words. Here's my sentence. the cost with 320 texts is $56. Here's another question with our situation. Now they tell us that the monthly bill is $51. In other words, that the cost is $51, and the question is, what are the texts? So we're going to set this one up by putting 51 in place of the cost. So we have 51 equals 40 plus 0.05 times t, and I'm leaving that as t because that's what I don't know, is how many texts we have. I'm going to go ahead and work on solving this. Solving for t, I'm going to subtract 40 or add negative 40 to both sides. 11 equals 0.05 t. Continuing, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.05 in order to get t by itself. Here I'm getting t equals, well, that's 11 divided by 0.05. That comes out to be 220. Again, this is a word problem. I want to write my answer in a sentence. We're going to say there were 220 texts. And there's my answer.